He was a legend among the stars. Tonight, we celebrate the triumphant life and legacy of the greatest of all time, Sidney Poitier.
Welcome to Entertainment Tonight, and we are standing by Mr. Poitier's star here on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He was a man of elegance, grace, and dignity, and Hollywood has lost an icon.
I can pull that fat cat down. I can bring him right off this hill. Amen, amen. Do you know that money is made out of my father's flesh?
I've had more than most actors. I have had the opportunity to work in films that transcended their times.
Mom, this is John.
It is my nature to make the kind of film that would make a comment.
I'm pleased to meet you, Mrs. Drayton.
There are great actors and there are important actors. Sidney Poitier was both.
How did I break through? I think I had great good luck on my side, and I also think I came along historically at the right time.
It is a long journey to this moment.
This was our last glimpse of Sidney. He was using a cane and leaving a West Hollywood restaurant in 2018. The 94-year-old icon passed away in the Bahamas, where he was raised.
Our country is in mourning. I've instructed that the Bahamian flag be flown at half-mast.
Do you think you would have turned out to be as splendid a man as you are if you hadn't had such a tough, hard struggle?
Well, that's a double-edged question. I mean, you're first of all presupposing that I've turned out splendidly. I know too many people who would question that.
At birth, Sidney weighed less than 3 pounds. He was so frail that his father, a tomato farmer, built him a coffin. But when a fortune teller predicted Sidney would be world famous, his parents threw the small coffin away.
I left the Bahamas, I left the Caribbean, and I went to New York at the age of 15. And I survived there with no friends, no money, no relations, no one.
Sidney acted in more than 40 films. His groundbreaking roles inspired a generation, especially Oprah Winfrey. This morning, she shared this photo and wrote, "For me, the greatest of the great trees has fallen, Sidney Poitier."
They call me Mr. Tibbs.
They call me Mr. Tibbs.
I want to ask you about Sidney Poitier's importance in Hollywood. And I say that in not just his movies, but his position in Hollywood.
There is no one on earth I love more. There's no one who I have greater respect or regard for.
Sidney was the first black man to win an Academy Award. Lilies of the Field earned him the Oscar for Best Actor, and that night in 1964 impacted a 10-year-old Oprah and countless others forever.
The winner is Sidney Poitier.
I still see the image of him when Anne Bancroft hands him the Academy Award, and I was profoundly, when I tell you profoundly, I could start weeping right now. I was profoundly, deeply, sincerely moved by that moment because I had never seen, we were being called colored people at the time, I had never seen a colored man look like that. And I just thought, if he could do that, I wonder what I could do.
Wow.
And that was at 10 years old. And because he did that, I was able to do what I have been able to do in the world. And every single other black person who followed, it only happened because he was able not just to do that, but to be that.
Can you briefly recall for me how you felt the night you got your award?
It was extraordinary, it was remarkable, it was like, it was great. What can I tell you?
What can I give you in return?
Some of his most memorable roles included playing a high school teacher in working-class London in To Sir with Love and a detective in the Deep South in the Heat of the Night. What works of his really touch you?
I love Guess Who's Coming to Dinner because the scene in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner where he says,
But you think of yourself as a colored man.
and I think of myself as a man, that is who he is.
Sidney was also a mentor to Denzel Washington. When he was a young unknown actor, Denzel met his idol in a bookstore.
I took out my picture and resume.
Did you really?
I sure did. He was like, well, son, I don't think this is the appropriate place.
He was young, he was skinny, Denzel was. But there was the flavor of what was to come.
The Oscars in 2002 would deepen their bond. It was then that the Academy gave special recognition to Sidney with an honorary award. And later in the night, Denzel won Best Actor with his idol watching.
40 years I've been chasing Sidney. They finally give it to me. What they do? They give it to him the same night. I'll always be chasing you, Sidney. I'll always be following in your footsteps.
Today, in a statement to E.T., Denzel said, "It was a privilege to call Sidney Poitier my friend. He was a gentle man and opened doors for all of us that had been closed for years. God bless him and his family." Sidney's final appearance at the Academy Awards was in 2014 when he stepped on stage to present Best Director alongside Angelina Jolie. The crowd stood for a spontaneous 45-second standing ovation.
The first time I met him at Quincy Jones's house, we had a conversation, and I was telling him about how hard it was because I was getting so much criticism from black people who were saying I was hugging white people too much, I wasn't doing enough of this, and I should be more of that. And he said, "This is what happens when you carry people's dreams." And after that conversation, he agreed to come on the Oprah show. It's the one time in my life where I had a breakdown after the show.
You didn't believe the dogma. You didn't believe what people said was possible for a black man.
Well, from the very beginning, I didn't believe that.
I finished interviewing him, Kevin, and I went into the control room and I laid my head down on the desk in front of the producer and I just bawled. I'm such an idiot. He's gonna hate me. I didn't ask any good questions. He's never gonna speak to me again. You know, it was one of those things where you meet the person you most wanted to meet and then you felt like you were not good enough. But after that, he gives me a call and he says he's calling me to apologize because he did not feel that he was his best that day. And after that, we were friends forever.
Sidney left a lasting impression on everyone he met. Actor Stephen Perry was just 12 years old when he co-starred with the legend in A Raisin in the Sun.
Hot dog!
He made it comfortable for me with his sense of humor and warmth. I felt hugged. I felt his arm around my shoulder. I always felt a part. The only black people on the studio lot was our cast and the Shoe Shine Man. And I can remember him speaking and tipping the Shoe Shine Man and embracing that person.
It wasn't just Sidney's work on camera that changed Hollywood. It was his work behind the scenes as well. In 1969, he, along with Barbra Streisand and Paul Newman, formed a production company to give actors more creative control over projects. He also went on to direct. His 1980 film, Stir Crazy, was the first movie from a black director to bring in more than $100 million. Today, Spike Lee reflected on his influence, calling Sidney a giant.
Actors, in response to harsh words or a harsh instruction, tend to tighten up, and they have to be loose.
Sidney told E.T. his happiest times were away from the Hollywood spotlight with his family. He was married twice and had 6 daughters.
How'd you get my address?
I'm Nicole Turner.
E.T. was on the set of the 1997 movie Free of Eden. The film also launched Sidney's daughter, also named Sidney's acting career.
It's kind of mind-blowing in a way because she's good.
But whether at home or in Hollywood, Sidney was always striving to improve himself and the world around him. He once said, "I always wanted to be someone better the next day than I was the day before."
There's always room for improvement. At my age, what am I going to do? Die? Certainly I will one day, but until that moment when I am no more, there is room for improvement.